The movie itself, I feel like it probably should have been more successful, but our boy Wesley Snipes, he was arrested in the middle of production because of
tax evasion.
Hey guys, what's going on? Jeff Porter from Cinema Reactor. Today we're talking about a Wesley Snipes movie called Gallowwalkers. I want so badly to like this movie, but there's just something about it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to kind of break it down. And this is a weird one. So Gallowwalkers follows Wesley Snipes' character Amon on like this revenge kind of like it kind of gave me like the Crow vibes, you know. In the Crow, they kill Brandon Lee's girlfriend, he comes back from the dead and he hunts them down one by one. In this, it's a little different where Amon's girlfriend is killed and he goes and hunts them down. He actually goes into a prison because they did something else and now they're in prison. So he finds that out, sneaks into the prison, shoots them, kills them, and then leaves. Now, this prison he had no issues getting to. However, on the way back, out in the desert, he like becomes dehydrated and falls off his horse and is gonna die. However, his magical mother finds him, makes a pact with the devil to spare his life. So he is brought back to life, he's resurrected, but all the people he killed come back as well. I can understand how like the devil pact is supposed to be like, well, you know, we'll resurrect you, but everything that you've done and kind of like your vengeful ways isn't going to matter in the end, you know. So you won't get that pleasure, that satisfaction from knowing that you killed all these people. However, this just means that Wesley Snipes gets to hunt them down again. The movie itself, I feel like it probably should have been more successful, but our boy Wesley Snipes, he was arrested in the middle of production because of
Tax evasion.
And so this kind of was in production hell for a long time. I think it started shooting in like 2006, 2008, somewhere in there. And then it was released in 2012. And so because of that, I mean, it's a little disjointed. You know, there are some things that you kind of have to, take with a grain of salt. But overall, like, I really want to like the movie. I just don't know if it's quite there. So probably the most confusing part is you don't find out about this curse until almost the end of the movie. And so everything up until then is kind of confusing. You do know that there are people coming back from the dead as like these zombie like things, and they're mentioned throughout the film as Gallowwalkers. However, it's only the people that he has killed. This must be like a pretty local situation. So as he's preparing to hunt down the Gallowwalkers, he does recruit some help. He goes to a group that's being arrested for something, and he just is like, oh yeah, that person looks like they're probably handy with a gun, and he just chooses somebody at random. This guy is called Fabulous. I did not make that up. The only reason I know is because I had the subtitles on, and when I looked at IMDb, it said Fabulous. Fabulous is played by Riley Smith, and if he looks familiar, it's because he's that dickhead in Radio.
There's no way you're suiting up tomorrow night.
So he chooses him to help him with his revenge vendetta. He finds like a little test to put him through. He throws him in a hole with some of these Gallowwalkers, which is just other people he's killed, to see if he dies or Fabulous comes out alive. The only reason that Fabulous does any of this is just because he feels like he owes a debt to Amon for breaking him out of that jail thing. And so what all of this culminates to is like this attack on Amon's home of all the Gallowwalkers coming, and there's a little bit of a shootout. There's some fights and stuff for like this grand finale, and it's not till after this finale that you find out about the curse and how people who Amon kills come back to life. And so Fabulous ends up getting like pretty hurt, and he's gonna bleed out to death. And so Amon is just like, okay, thanks for coming, and Fabulous turns around to leave, and he just fucking shoots him.
I'm gonna go.
Hey.
Yeah.
But because Amon killed him, he comes back to life, and now he's a Gallowwalker. And so he kind of gets a second chance at life because Amon says he was going to bleed out anyway. Now the thing is it's a bad movie. I'm going to be honest, okay? It's a bad movie. It's not a Steven Seagal movie because I can tell you the plot of this, and there are things that I really like. First thing I like is it is kind of a unique movie. It's not necessarily zombies, it's not vampires, but it's a kind of a horror western with Wesley Snipes, and he's always cool. Like, you can't take the cool out of Wesley Snipes even in Gallowwalkers. But it's kind of a fun, unique blend of a couple of different genres, and like I said, if it was more taken care of, if they didn't have so many production issues, it might have been better. The other thing I kind of like is you don't really understand exactly how he's resurrected to begin with. In the beginning, we find out that Amon was left by his parents, and this family on a slaughterhouse farm thing take him in, and they raise him up. He falls in love with their daughter. In the beginning of the film, there's a voiceover that's not Wesley Snipes because he was in jail. So they tried finding somebody who sounded like him. There's a lot of movies we've been doing lately with just strange voiceovers that they change. But you hear about like how there's this secret society of women who are protecting a gate to hell and keeping like the damned from rising. And so there's kind of that cool lore and backstory that we don't really go into too much, but we kind of assume that his mother's part of this order, and that's how she can make the deal to resurrect him. The last thing I really liked is how it feels like a graphic novel. I feel like this would have done really well as a graphic novel. I think that's what they were trying to go for, and in the end credits it really like dials in on that, and you kind of get this cool black and red artwork illustration with the characters' names and everything. They're all very comic booky names. I feel like it would have done really well. So talking about the Gallowwalkers, I actually do kind of like their whole story too. So not only do they come back from the dead because of the deal that's made for Amon, the leader's son doesn't, because while they were in prison he ended up hanging himself because he couldn't come to terms with what they were doing, I guess. Their whole goal is to try to resurrect him because they have no idea of the deal that Amon's mother made. And so the whole story for them is the leader's trying to resurrect his son. And so I just think that's kind of an interesting tidbit where they're all trying to figure out like, why the hell are we alive? Why were we all brought back? Why wasn't my son brought back? Well, it's because Amon didn't kill him. Now what they don't tell you, and I said this earlier, but you don't find this out until like the end of the movie. And so the whole film is kind of really confusing up until then. You don't really have any idea what's going on. You don't know why the Gallowwalkers came back. I don't know if it would have made more sense if they told us to begin with, but it could have definitely helped. So the gang of Gallowwalkers that Amon kills, you have Pool, who ends up stitching his own mouth together, I guess as a way to repent for his sins or something is how I took it. However, he didn't quite stitch it all the way closed. He could still talk like this, and so the whole time he's on screen he's just kind of mumbling, but it's all stitched together. How does he eat? It makes no sense unless he's just fasting until he dies. You have the leader's like girlfriend called Kiss Cut, because she cut a guy and then she kissed him.
Kiss cut.
That's about the extent of her character development. You have Dallas Page. Diamond Dallas Page is in the movie. He comes back as a guy wearing this enormous metal helmet with a bunch of spikes and stuff out of it. They call him Skull Bucket. The rest of the gang, I couldn't even really figure out like what their names were. That's the thing. Throughout this whole movie, nobody ever says their name except for like Kiss Cut.
Kiss cut.
Like the only reason that I knew is because of the subtitles and I looked at IMDb. I mean, there is a story here. There's something happening that's like a cool revenge plot. It's like a horror fantasy western with Wesley Snipes. I mean, like all the pieces are there, but in the end, it just ends up kind of a jumbled mess. I understand why a lot of people don't like it. I mean, I really wanted to like it. I feel like this could be kind of like a cult film. I feel like it could have its own following. I could see in the future maybe there would be like a graphic novel or something to go along with it as like kind of a background or add more lore to it. Like it's got a good base. It just doesn't deliver. There's two different points in this film where Wesley Snipes rips a man's head off Predator style and the whole spine comes dangling down. And I mean, when they come back from the dead, it shows them like as their normal self, but yet Frank from Hellraiser shows up as he's the leader,
You won't cheat me, will you? You'll stay with me.
but now he has to get new skin. But when Fabulous died, he came back as him. There's a lot of things like that that just don't add up that I feel like they probably expanded upon, but because of the production issues just got left behind. I really want to like it. I really do. But it's just there's too many different things going on. You don't know any of the characters' names. The only really good part about this movie is Wesley Snipes, and even he is just kind of like halfway there.
You remember me.
There's so much to this movie, but I feel like I would just ramble on for like an hour. At the end of the day, this is definitely better than the Seagal movies we watched. It's on Tubi TV right now. You can watch it for free if you want. I don't know if I can full-fledged recommend it. It's a bad movie, but you can definitely tell that they were on the cusp of something. There was something that could have been good. I think there was just too many production issues. All right, guys, I think I wasted enough time. Go check out the movie or don't. We'll be back Friday with another film. Remember to like, subscribe. I'll see you guys later.